Hi Rohini, lighting's great. You look great. I love your bulletin board.
My bulletin board.
Okay.
Only just a quick run through. So what we'll do is I'll do about a minute or two of welcoming everybody. By that time, everybody will settle down. Then I'll get to introducing you. There doesn't need to be a lot of introduction, and then we'll start. So there are
Just a few minutes.
yeah.
I thought I'll speak at a much broader level because then the specificities will come in the question part, right?
That makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
So your focus is still fully on livelihoods, right?
Yes, we've focused on that. We've had this debate about health and livelihood, and a very, very strong debate. And we've started going along because health and livelihoods are intricate, and that's an ongoing debate that is happening within the chapter.
Okay, and how many members do you have now in Bangalore?
We've got 68 full partners, and across India now we've got about 225 or so.
Pretty cool.
So yeah.
And it used to be some 2 lakhs per year per person.
Now it's a little bit more. It's about 2.5. But that's, I mean, what we've realized is that the network effect that we are able to get is much better than any funding. So we're keeping it small, committed. Otherwise, it becomes a club. Okay. I'll wait for 60 more seconds to get everybody started, and then we'll start.
What's that? I mean, I told him I'll be on this call.
Do you have people already, or?
Yeah, we have significant. I can't see on my screen, but we
have
about
42 participants already.
Okay, we've got it. I'm sure others.
A bit early in the
Actually, the weird way work from home, it's a little bit early. Otherwise, our meetings start face to face at 8:30. So typically, that's not a problem. But okay, so I think we'll start. Thank you, everyone. We have a fantastic agenda for this all-partner meeting, and I'm extremely excited. And for people who don't know me, this is my excited face, so you'll have to live with this. We have a great keynote speaker in front of us, Rohini Nilekani, and we have a 45 to 50-minute session with her, followed by a presentation by our NGO partner Vedan on the Madiwala project, where we also have another key guest, Sri Randeep, who is the additional Commissioner of Solid Waste Management. So I won't take a lot of time, and I will throw in the chapter update for about 30 seconds as we transition from one thing to another. We will, so just before we start, a few ground rules, right? First of all, please keep your phones and computers on mute. Whatever conversations, so the first 20 minutes, we'll have a first opening monologue, if you will, from Rohini. After that, there will be some questions that I'll ask of her, and then we'll open it up for Q&As. Anybody who wants to do Q&As, please make sure you put it in the chat. Sanjana is going to monitor that chat and then make sure that that chat comes to me, and I'll ask those questions for you on your behalf, because that's the easier way to moderate for us. So these are the few ground rules. Let's stick to those and let's start. So I'm extremely delighted to and honored to get Rohini Nilekani as our keynote speaker. She has been a great supporter of SVP. We've had her as a speaker about 4 years back in a face-to-face session. It was a really great session. So Rohini needs no introduction. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this. So Rohini, over to you. Let's tell us a little bit of your thoughts on the high level on the situation today, and let's go forward.
Okay, thank you so much, Jogin, and namaste everyone. I hope you are all safe and well. Thank you for joining this session so early in the morning. And I'm very happy with this opportunity to come back to all of you 4 years later. It was a great session, very interactive last time, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you. I hope we can make this one also interactive, though we can't do it in person, but I hope you write in questions and I'll be happy to engage in anything. So first of all, I want to say thanks to SVP for all that you do, because with your focus on livelihoods, I cannot think of something that's more important in this pandemic, because recently, in fact, together with Omidyar Network, we did a survey, and Dalberg executed the survey, and there was an average reported loss of income of 63%. And even the government's cash entitlements covered only some 16 or 17% of that loss of income. So livelihoods are really on everybody's minds. And so this is a great opportunity, I feel, for SVP to think afresh, maybe pivot, maybe think differently. So that's the right sector to focus on. And of course, all of us have learned so much in this pandemic. We've learned about ourselves. We've learned about our communities and our governments. We've learned about the positives and the negatives of our public systems. Our activistic fears have also been revived. So you see some of the ugliness outside. But our empathy has also been stirred. And it has been, we all really have internalized the mutual dependencies and interconnections that we have. And as the mindfulness practitioners would say, this is kind of an invitation not to get away from our conditioned mindsets of avoiding difficulties and actually turning into the difficulty and welcoming the positive change that can come out of this. So I would say that even as governments have responded the best.
Okay, I think we have some, yeah, we've lost we've lost Rohini. Let's just please be online, guys. I think she'll come back in a minute. Sanjana is working out.
I'm so sorry for that. I'm so sorry for that.
No problem, no problem. Please go ahead.
I suddenly got disconnected.
Yeah,
But
please.
what I was saying was that, you know, governments has responded the best that they can, but also private philanthropy has really picked up, and corporations and philanthropic foundations have gone out of their way to rejig their portfolios to create a rapid response. And also individual giving, you all know how much retail giving has picked up. I was part of a fundraiser just last week, and we collected $7 million in those 4 hours. So people are really reaching out, and I think it's a great opportunity to do something before donor fatigue sets in. So how do you think that through? I would say what immediate relief that SVP is doing in terms of giving the kits and the masks has to go on while the need is there. I would just suggest make sure that you're not replicating what others are doing and really looking for the gaps to fill, so that, you know, sometimes remember in the tsunamis, etc., when people were asked to give clothes, everybody sent masses of clothes, and it was not really useful because they needed other things. So even now people are saying there are shortages like sanitary pads, which is really important, and other things. So even if you want to do emergency relief, maybe you need to commission some kind of understanding as to what the emergency needs are right now, because they may no longer be masks. So that's one small input that I had to give you. But I was invited here to take a bit of the longer view and to reflect on what we in the philanthropic community do next, and how do we best serve the vision and the mission that we have set up for ourselves. So more of the detailed thoughts will be expressed as an answer to Jogen's questions, which he has promised to ask. But let me put up a kind of a small framework first, which comes from the thinking that through our philanthropy, through Nandan's work and my work and the work of all our teams, we pooled all that thinking together. And we call it societal platform thinking. Some of you may have heard about this, so I apologize for the repetition. But the idea is that societal problems are so complex that they cannot be solved by any one sector alone, neither Samaj, nor Sarkar, nor Bazaar. You really need all three to do the part that they do best in response to any complex societal problem. So what is societal platform thinking? It is a way to reduce the friction to collaborate between Samaj, Bazaar and Sarkar, because there's so much friction that even though they want to, these sectors don't collaborate very easily. And so what does it mean when we say, how do you reduce the friction to collaborate? We keep some questions and philosophies close to our heart. So some principles that guide us are what kind of, we see our work as creating open digital public goods that allow people to participate to solve complex problems. And so we believe that we need to be technology enabled, but we are careful not to be technology led, because technology is not the solution. It's just part of a complex process that you need to set up so that people can continue to build their own agency, and that control and authority doesn't just come to one side of the spectrum. So how can we, something that we hold very dear is that instead of always trying to push a solution down the pipeline, how can we distribute the ability to solve? So it goes back to giving people more and more agency. How do you design a tech infra, a digital infra, so that you're distributing agency and distributing the ability to solve rather than pushing one solution? Because often when we think of scale, we think of cookie cutter scale, whereas the scale we need to think about is scaling up diversity, because most problems are best solved in their context. And so to allow contextual solutions to emerge, we must think of scale as diversity at scale. And that's what our tech platforms try to enable. And also data. How do you allow data to come out as an exhaust wherever actions are happening, so that that data is useful at all levels. And it's not just the top that can see and observe, but that observability, searchability, discoverability is spread through the entire network throughout the platform. So these are some of the design principles by which we are working. And XStep Foundation, our goal is to enable 200 million children to have increased access to learning opportunities in 5 years. And we are finishing the 5 years pretty soon. And we think we will have met our goals. Thanks to the platform that we helped government to design, which is called Diksha. Some of you might have heard of it. And it is reaching millions of teachers and children around the country. So XStep has been an instantiation of what we call societal platform thinking. I'll be happy to either answer more questions later or to introduce SVP to the fantastic tech team that we have, the societal platform team that we have that is led by Sanjay Purohit. I'll be very happy to do that. So extracting for SVP from this whole societal platform thinking, I'm going to say 2-3 things which I hope you will find useful. I think the pandemic has given us an opportunity to design a new normal. Because remember, the old normal was not that great for millions of Indians, right? We don't have a very just or equitable society. So there's no point rushing to go back to the old normal. We really have the opportunity to design for a new normal, but that's very easy to say. And how do we do that? So some of the thinking the team has been doing is like this in 3 words: responsibility, responsiveness, and resilience. So until now, our Samaj sector, our social sector was very much focused on responsibility. So in the past few decades, we have created this whole regime of rights, and we have put into place policies and laws that address the issues of the underprivileged, the vulnerable, and a whole thriving civil society has emerged around these ideas with the mission to create justice for all. And that has led to the focus on system responsiveness. Okay, you have all these laws, but how are they going to get implemented? Where is the gap? How effective is the system? How can we make that governance more effective? And again, the states, the local governments have responded, but there is much gap because of the revolution of rising expectations. And so new civil society institutions, new funding organizations like yours emerged to increase the responsiveness of the system. But then finally, as issues of climate change especially came to the fore, people realized that it's not just one kind of responsiveness that is going to crack it. We need to design for resilience. And if change is the only constant, then we need the skills to adapt quickly and innovate through the change. And so the debate has begun on how to build resilience. I am a strong believer in community resilience. And we just published a report on that, which I'll be happy to share with you later. And so we have moved from this, in this journey, from responsibility to responsiveness and now to resilience. And we all together have to rethink what are the meanings of these things. What is responsibility post-COVID, for example? Because after all, a regime of rights will not be enough because of the scale at which vulnerability has increased, right? So for example, are we now going to think of societal responsibility as a universal basic income? Because partial things like NREGA will no longer suffice. The demand will be so high that a scheme like NREGA will just not be enough for jobs, right? So we have to start thinking completely differently because the problems are growing exponentially and we can't have linear responses. So the mindset has to become much more flexible and urgent because, and I'll close very soon, we know that these things that are being set into motion now, these ripples, right, from the recent disturbances can turn into tsunamis, and we have to stem some of that now. For example, we all know about health. The first 1,000 days of a child's life are so important. Now, if that is getting neglected because of the pandemic, you can't turn the clock back. That child loses those 2 years and you can't get that back. And there are instances like that everywhere in education and in everything else, where if we don't stem the tide right now, these ripples can turn into tsunamis. So how do we start to think? And let me last focus on resilience. We are very lucky that we have the world's best digital infrastructure, and I'm both proud and humble to say that Nandan has been very much part of this. And earlier I really fought with him about privacy and surveillance and this, but now I realize what an advantage it is, because while America is still trying to put checks in the mail, we have been able to do millions, hundreds of millions of cash transfers in the last 2 months to people. And that's because of the digital infra. So that kind of infra allows us to build some forms of resilience. So I would ask SVP to think on this. How will SVP now begin to maybe pivot towards creating resilience? Because this is not the last crisis that we are going to face. Climate change is already upon us. Who knows which other pandemics are waiting? So this is what we must think through together. How can we enable the social sector and the state sector to build more resilience? So sorry for being long-winded in the beginning, but I wanted to place this larger picture, and then we'll come to your other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohini. This was fantastic. So responsibility, responsiveness, and resilience. These are the 3 R's that I'm going to take away. And I'll not ask a lot of questions on what you just said, because I'll leave that to the partners. I'm sure there are a lot of questions everybody has. So let's talk a little bit about the current state, right? How do you distinguish between the immediate needs and the long-term needs? So considering that there is only a certain amount of resources that we all have.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
So look, there are hundreds of millions of dollars that have been committed by CSR and big philanthropic foundations to the immediate response. So if we add just one more drop in that bucket, it may or may not make a difference. It will make us feel good, and we should do some of it, because it's important to connect at the heart level. Yeah. But I think that it's time now to start thinking midterm and long term, because those problems are going to be much larger and longer. So I would say, if you have already done what you wrote to me that you have done, maybe now is the time to switch, either to find the real gaps in the immediate response, or to now switch to thinking what will people need in the medium term, because this is not going away soon. No. And some of us, at least I have been holding my firepower rather than responding with immediate things, because I know that donor fatigue will set in and people's needs will increase and not reduce. So I think that's how you should do the balance.
It's a fantastic insight, because the general feeling would be to rush in because of the crisis, but it's important to understand the long term. And this is where my next question comes in, because I'm from the healthcare, so I can guarantee you the virus is coming back at some point in time, right? There will be a plateau, it will go down, and it will become part of our system. At some point, there will be herd immunity. It's not going to happen anytime soon. And so how do we create that resilience in ourselves as well as the NGO community? I mean, I know we need to do it, and we all know we need to do it, but can you give us a few pointers on what specifically we would need to do?
So one thing that has become very clear, that even though I must say there has been a lot of pressure on civil society institutions over the last few years, so much more government sort of regulation, and not always very fair regulation. I mean, a lot of things that should have been different. So the sector is under tremendous stress, also because many foreign funders have moved out, and Indian philanthropists are not as generous as they need to be. So the social sector has been under stress. But look what happened in these last few days, how they rose to the occasion. They have been the first responders, because they reached the first mile, the citizens, they have direct connect. So it's been most gratifying to see that the Samaj sector has been the sector that holds the trust of the community. So first thing that philanthropic institutions must do is to start again from a point of trust with civil society institutions, okay? And so right now, some of us have released a kind of a pledge that for the next few months or years, whatever it takes, we will be much more flexible in the kind of reporting that needs to be done. We will give a lot more choice to the CSOs to deploy the funds. I mean, they may have said they need it for something, but then they find they need it for something else. So really be a little more trusting and allow a lot more flexibility to CSOs, because that's what helps them to build the resilience that they need. We need to create these networks of trust before the next crisis hits, so that when the crisis hits, we can do a rapid response much more effectively. So that's my big takeaway, that we must come from a position of trust. I'm not saying don't look at the finances, but that's one thing. And secondly is within your portfolio, look at your portfolio, look at your institutions and find sort of catalog the assets that your CSO partners have. Some of them may be very good at one particular thing, like finding people who need loans or matching livelihoods to geographies or whatever that might be. And then help them to make that a horizontal across your portfolio so that everybody learns from each other. I think that to create that shareability, discoverability is very, very important to build these networks and nodes which allow for the response. And that's why you are going to have to start thinking about platforms. And they're going to have to be digital.
And this is fantastic. This is what we have also seen in the last 3-4 months as our uniqueness, because we are able to just funding is just no longer enough, and there are a lot of other people. But just connecting one NGO's capabilities to the other and creating a platform where everybody feeds off one another. That's one way to create resilience, and we're trying very hard to figure that out. And there have been some success.
Invest in capacity building. There are many capacities that they need. It could be even as simple as storytelling. Build those capacities.
Absolutely. Okay, so my next question is, India currently spends about 1% of its GDP, from 0.7 to 1, and 25% of that is private philanthropy. While if you look at outside, they spend about 2.4% of the GDP, and 70% is private philanthropy. And this is percentages, so we can't get away by saying, we are a poor country, so etc. This is percentages, so this is a priority one. How do we use this opportunity to effect change in this? Because without that, there's nothing that can work. And on the other end, as you mentioned, a lot of our point of care contact is a private hospital. So there is this weird, problem in distribution. What do we do? Tell us a little bit of your thoughts.
So I'm no expert on this, and there are many other experts who have spoken on this a lot. I'll just tell you what we are doing, because I'm not a healthcare sector expert. But Nandan and I are funding as part of Co-Impact an organization called ECHO. It's truly a marvelous organization. I urge you to look at its website. So one of the things they do in India, they're in many, many countries in the world. And the main thing that they do is guided mentoring. So they have this rigorous process where every week, nurses, doctors, ASHA workers, whoever is required to be responsible for a certain healthcare activity, they meet digitally and exchange notes in a very rigorous process.
That's nice.
And it is really a fantastically effective way to do what they say. And what we have learned is move knowledge, not people. And that's a very important thing across all sectors. Move knowledge, not people. You can't have millions of doctors going into all the villages. Nor is it wise to move all the patients into the city's hospital. So how do you, this is also a way of distributing agency. So that's what they focus on, moving knowledge, not people. I don't know if SVP will be able to play a big role in shifting the GDP numbers. But if you look at things like this, which have been effective to distribute agency in the healthcare sector, that might be useful. And another thing is Nandan's larger tech team and group, iSpirit and others are building out the national health stack. They're working with the government also on that, like the India stack. And the idea of that is to build trust and transparency and to increase the system's efficiency, the health system's efficiency. And of course, there's a lot more information that I can share if you want to. So that's all I want to say on the healthcare sector. My investment in healthcare has been through water and sanitation, which is really a foundational thing. And in this pandemic, we have seen how much water and sanitation is the key to containing it. And in the summer months, you know what India goes through in terms of water. So that's been my investment. So these are the only things I know about the health sector.
Thanks. I'll ask one more question and then open it up. I see a lot of questions coming in on the chat. So then that is a personal question. And that when this pandemic hit, a lot of us were in a bubble where we were in control. Right, we were in control. We were working with NGOs, helping them scale up. And when this pandemic hit, that bubble burst because a lot of these NGOs came up. I know some who said, "I need 10 lakhs next week to give salaries to my people," and everyone came back to us, and we froze. And it's a massive lack of control that we felt. We finally figured out, and went out, and I think we figured out how to help all our NGOs. But how does one deal with that? Because this is a fairly unfamiliar feeling for most of us on the call. And is that something that you can relate to, or is that something that you can throw a little bit more light? This is a personal question, not related to anybody else.
Okay. No, of course, we've all gone through this, and I've written an article called "The End of Secession" a couple of years ago.
Yes, I know that.
I said that the air pollution has finally told us that the elite can no longer secede. Between the air pollution, the pandemic, and climate change. You can sit in your air-conditioned rooms, but you can't escape the reality. So how do we think differently, right? The only way is to really understand that we are all in it together and we can get out of this together. So it's very good to have that kind of panic and loss of control, because we are not, in any case, control is a bit of an illusion. So it's very good to go through that process of fear, especially adaptive fear. So fear is a useful tool. And so long as we analyze that our fear is being adaptive, that's fine. But the minute our fear turns into negative fear, which is awfulizing, catastrophizing, it doesn't help. So just keeping that in mind. And over the last few days, two things have never seemed more relevant to me, which is Karmanye Vadikaraste and Vaishnava Janate. So if you think on those two, you really get a feeling of, you get some capacity to remain centered in the eye of the storm instead of sort of getting blown away here and there. So I would say that once you're past that initial panic, once we get out of the being like a deer caught in the headlights, it's actually a great opportunity, and it's for you all, for all of us individually and all of us as a group, to really dwell on the power of our intent, and then to seriously focus with joyful responsibility on the grammar of that intent, because intent alone is not enough.
Very, very nice. Thank you. I like the answer the best. I'm going to now shift to the questions that have been coming in. Okay. The first question is from Rishi Krishnan, who's our SVP partner. He's asked, does our focus on livelihood need a change? What would we do differently from now on? You've answered partly a little bit, but is there a more broader focus that one keeps? Because livelihood is one piece of the larger puzzle. As far as.
So, but because livelihood, as I said in the beginning, has become even more important now. Maybe reimagining the idea of livelihoods. You see, I really don't know what's going to happen in the next few months, because the migrants have suddenly recalibrated their sense of home, their sense of what they need. And we don't know when, I read in the papers that the government is trying to stop them. And I think that is just the most inhuman thing to do. And I think all of us need to put our voice forward to say that it's like legitimizing bonded labor. I mean, it really shocked me to the core that any state could even begin to think like that. But they will go. And when they go, maybe there's a chance to rethink the rural-urban question and think of more regenerative, sustainable livelihoods in the rural economy. And what would that mean? How do those innovations, that entrepreneurship, how can you support that more? Because we are going to see a sea change in the way cities are going to be run. So it's a new opportunity.
And we have to get out of our cities and visit and be in those villages in order to see it. Right? And that's for all of us.
Nothing is better than going into the field. When you sit here and read the papers and you feel so depressed. Every time I go out and meet real people and see what's going on in this country, how much innovation, how much optimism, when I come back, I really come back to do my work with much more
There's nothing like a field visit. So that brings us to Malini, who's our investee in Stone Soup. They have women and men producing everything from cloth masks to sanitary pads and so on. And her question is, can the world 2.0 have people staying back in the village and connect and train with technology? So what's the technology? Is there any technology that is being developed to address this new world where rural people can stay in the rural areas and still be connected to the ecosystem of society?
Yeah, I mean, really, Nandan has been talking a lot about this. And again, that's not my area of expertise, but very clearly, you're going to see the world moving to digital in ways that we could not have imagined in December. And already you're seeing massive increases in digital transactions of all kinds.
Yes.
Really, I should leave it to Nandan because he has all the numbers of just how much is happening in the digital world. So we have to reimagine that so that people don't experience loss of control even more. You have to make it inclusive. That's going to be India's digital challenge. That
Yes. Yes.
how do you not further the digital divide?
Yes.
So access to markets, everything, we have to think in a way which is more inclusive. But yes, of course, the world will go much more digital very, very rapidly.
You've said about help in addressing gaps. We started with let SVP now not do the short-term stuff but figure out how to address gaps. I think that question came from Mekin. Are there platforms that listen to citizens, etc., which can help us identify gaps? How do you? It's an absolutely correct thing to do. How do you actually get out of where we are and getting to the place where you identify gaps?
I think all of you, with all the professional talent that you have, if you all could invest in actually commissioning research to find the gaps. And, that would be useful. There are intermediary organizations. I support several organizations like Reap Benefits, Satwa, a lot of them that are able to connect with citizens and get that build very strong feedback loops. Maybe you all need to start thinking of how you all can use your capacity to do analytics so that you can tweak what you're doing to be more effective. Use data, commission research, meet these bridging organizations who have the reach to get the feedback loops to know where the gaps are.
And that we have seen poor acceptability of migrants, which is something that you just talked about, in local governments as well as society. Right, they're all very useful when they are building the building that we live in. But then once all of this sorted out, this is a question from Ramaswamy, which is that current vote bank politics don't allow this problem to get solved because they're not voters for them. How do we? What do we do in such a situation?
Well, actually, it's not really vote bank politics when it comes to the migrants to the city. Bangalore has more than 50% migrants, and those migrants can't vote here. So in that sense, it's not really vote bank politics. They vote back wherever they are, which also we have to think through. Yeah. But so more than vote bank politics, it's where our complete inability to respond with the right public infrastructure. We need more land reform. We need so many things. We know what to do, but we seem to be in the big stuck, like Land Pritchett says. And, it's a flailing state. So anything we can do to build state capacity, any work we do to build state capacity is going to have the biggest bang for the buck. So thinking about investing in advocacy institutions would also be useful, so that we are not just complaining about the problem, but we are trying to be part of the solution.
That's a really important point. I have lots of questions, Kevin. I'm trying to combine all of these so that it's easier. One of the questions that is actually from Ganesh Natarajan, who's our India chair, is that given the limited health infrastructure everywhere, this is actually a health-related question. Wouldn't we be better served allowing the young to go out and keeping over 65s and under 18s at home? Can we evangelize this to stop the rampaging new cases? I have some things to say, but I'll give this to you.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly can't stay in continued lockdown mode. My daughter every day gives us a daily briefing of what's happening in the world on the pandemic. And one of the big mysteries is whether India, we have some advantage because we have a young population, because compared to America, thank heavens, our numbers are so much lower, touch wood. And we don't know what will happen if everybody goes off like they did to buy liquor yesterday and day before. But you're right that we have a young population, and we should allow much more movement with precaution. And that will happen. I mean, people won't be restrained anymore. I don't think so.
And I'll add, there are two possible theories. One is this whole immunity, which is, there are things that are being investigated with BCG and all these vaccinations, which are iffy theories in my view, because vaccination doesn't stay for a long time. And the other is that this is a genuinely new strain and we are just plain lucky. Because there are other strains.
It's a bit puzzling sort of virus. So one doesn't know what to say.
Okay. What I think there are a lot of questions coming from our NGO partners saying you've described a lot of this X-Step and a lot of tech that Nandan's team is building. We have at least 18 at last count NGOs which we partner with in Bangalore and across India much more. What if they need to get in touch with somebody where they can leverage all this developments? What would they do? Can you help us?
Yeah, so I can send you some links and resources later, because everything that we are building is open, free to access. But we can't handhold so many organizations. We're already at peak capacity. However, all the assets that we are building are put in a place which I can send you all the links to. It's called Space. And we have very detailed processes that you could follow, that we have learned from, and people keep adding to. So I'll be happy to share all that information.
That'll be fantastic, because then if you can give it to Sanjana, she will be the gateholder for us. That'll be great. Okay, let me now, so what we've said, I'm just trying to summarize because we're nearing the end, is what you've started is with, we need to figure out the responsibility, responsiveness, and resilience. There has been responsibility in whatever we're doing, but the responsiveness and resilience is something we need to work on, and we need to actively reach out to find out what the gaps are. And as you said, the world of before doesn't make sense right now. So the other question that came from Sashi, I could see it on the screen, but it just popped away, which is also something of great interest to us, which is, and I'm going to guess what she has said. There she is. Sorry, just give me. Yeah. So given the current state of water bodies, which are well rested in the last 40 days, the pollution levels have supposedly come down. What can the government do as part of policies to keep it at this level? Because we've now seen very, very clearly air and pollution levels go down. So this is very, very specifically proof that we're part of the problem in a big way. But now that we are at this level, is there anything we can do to put a lot more energy to keep it at this level?
Yeah, no, this is a very important question, because my big worry is, see, in 45 days in Bangalore city, you figured out that your lakes can get cleaner, and the Bhavati river can flow clear again. Can you imagine that? And the sewage has not changed in the city. So that means it's the industrial effluents that have been making the city's river frothing and black. But what it has given us is a vision. We are able to at least imagine a city like the European cities with a clean river flowing through it. Just having that vision is something very important that we did not have for decades, to be able to actually see that. So now it is really, the onus is on the Samaj to hold the Sarkar and the institutions accountable. Because tomorrow, in the name of restarting livelihoods and the economy, if you are going to throw away all your environmental norms, you are pretty much asking for the next crisis to come and hit you sooner than it otherwise would. So now is the time to support institutions that are willing to be watchdogs, that are going to say, how come so much effluent is going there? There are laws, there are institutions, there are governance structures. What are they doing? And also not just to blame, but what can, say, CSR, what can be done to help the polluters to mitigate their pollution? You can't do it without addressing that question. how will small units mitigate their pollution? So something needs to be thought through.
This is actually fantastic because
last point, there are examples. Tide, an organization, Swati Bhogle and all, worked very hard with the Tirupur industries to create common effluent control plants. And for some time it worked very well. Then of course things happen. But so there are precedents and ideas. But all of us have to hold people's feet to the fire now. We want better, cleaner air, water, and
Agreed. Tide was our first NGO that we work with. So we're intimately familiar with Swati's team. We've got questions which I'll combine from Ajit and Rati saying, first of all, we ask the government for everything, right? What is our role as society members to clean the society? And secondly, how do we bring organizations together using the platforms? Can you give us an example, for example, in water, where you've been able to do that? So these are two separate questions, but time is at a premium, so I combine both of these.
So in terms of getting organizations together, I think anybody can take that sort of system builder responsibility to bring organizations together around a common but co-created vision. So I'll just give you one example. In Arghyam, the water foundation that I set up,
yes,
we began to work on participatory groundwater management for several years now. And we looked at all the hydrologies and typologies in India and organizations working there. We brought them together and they co-created common principles to apply for managing groundwater better. And that became sort of a portfolio, and we kept on scaling that. And today, every single government document on water includes that approach and principles. So it is possible, but you have to co-create the solutions. You can't push one solution, your own solution down the pipeline. So it's very possible to do that. And yes, we in the Samaj, we don't have any automatic entitlements to good governance. Together, we have to co-create it, we are not consumers of governance. We are really co-creators. And so just blaming doesn't seem to work. Being part of the solution does seem to work. So that's what we all are doing anyway.
I remember this is how Ravi recruited me, saying, we get the government we deserve. And we have to work with the government to try and take it forward. So this has been fantastic, Rohini. It's so great to hear you. Your optimism and your energy is infectious, and I hope to take that away with us. And there's been a list of questions. We tried to address as many as we could. But any last thoughts from you before we close and go to the next session?
No, I wish you all luck. I really think it's an opportunity to rethink what you want to do and become even more effective. And anyway, my teams can help you. We'd be happy to connect. So all the best, stay safe, and really thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we do hope you stay for a little bit for the next session, which is also an extremely important session for us. We have with us the Additional Commissioner Sri Randeep. So this is about for just a very, very brief introduction. He's been a tireless advocate for working with civil society for solid waste management projects, and Padma Shri has been working with him. And we have created we're working with an NGO known as Vedan for the Madiwala market solution, and we'll look forward to his thoughts first and then transition to Padma Shri. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, and wonderful to hear Rohini ma'am speak in detail. Thank you. Otherwise, it's added a bit of optimism in our mundane daily activities, which we've been carrying out over the last 45 days. So thank you for that, and welcome to all who have joined this seminar. I think, firstly, let me thank the larger civil society, the NGOs and RWAs, and each and every one of you who have kind of stepped up and tried to help the government in all possible ways. I think this required a kind of a mammoth effort. The very food distribution and issues like reaching out essentials to the needy, I'm sure that the government would not have done it on its own. And as it's becoming visibly clear, unless we have systems in place where we clearly engage with civil society at all levels, the efficiency of the government and the delivery systems, they would tend to remain the same. So I think that is very clear. And hearing Rohini man speak, it's amply clear that uh, uh, there are some systemic changes which need to happen in the coming days. I think her reference to the Rishabhapti River is something that we as government need to look at very seriously, because these few days of the lockdown have really shown us what kind of city we can actually have if there is a bit more of enforcement. And being in the solid waste management stream, it kind of a clear drop of around 900 tons of waste at the landfill is what I could see very evidently. I could see better segregation in certain parts of the city. So a lot of discipline actually falls in if you kind of enforce and if people really wish for it to happen. Our engagement, coming more specifically to the subject, our engagement with SVP has been more or less for the Madiwala market, because this is a market which I used to pass by quite a few times and used to really feel bad about seeing all those wet waste and the plastic waste just lying outside the market. So we kind of engaged one of our NGOs called Vedan, and they received the support of SVP in terms of some finances and logistical support. And they have literally kind of transformed the market, both in terms of visual cleanliness and in terms of the actual process flow in how waste is managed there. Probably they would make a presentation, but I was fairly impressed with the turnaround, because the labor was the same, the SWM workers were the same, our engineers were the same, but a bit of process change, a bit of handling of the waste in a better manner, a bit of training on the ground, and a little bit of infrastructure here and there tweak, and we had a much better visually clean market in place. And we really look forward to engagement like these, where we could provide a cleaner city, we could provide a visually cleaner environment to the public, where we engage with public, with such NGOs on a larger scale. So, I mean, that is primarily, I was told that we would be discussing this. And from BBMP SWM, I would extend an open invitation for anybody who would like to come and step in and say that, look, this is what it is. These are the changes that we'd like to bring. This is how we'd like to partner with SWM BBMP, or for that matter, even public health. And then, at least from my side and from BBMP side, we would be quite open to actively engage with such organizations. The contribution could be in kind, contribution could be in terms of training for our staff. It could be kind of any kind of direct investment on capital, whatever it is. But I think we are seeing a larger gamut of ideas which are being floated now, and other than SWM also in the sectors of public health, bit of infrastructure also, we are seeing a lot of these changes. But I'm a bit partial to SWM, and I think unless we can have a clean city, the benefits of public health and proper solid waste management will be lost. So that's about it for my opening remarks. If there are any questions, then I'd like to take.
Yes, so I have a question. Is that what we have seen in Badiwala is completely surprised, because I was there on day 1 and then I was there on day 15, and the difference was incredible, right? And it wasn't a lot of investment from us. I mean, we made investments, but not the kind. I mean, for the amount of investment we made, the difference was incredible. If this works, is there a possibility that we can create a template of this and roll it all across? Because that would be the right way to do it.
Yeah, I would say that markets being captive and some places, I mean, with this concepts of social distancing and the whole different view in which markets are going to be viewed in the coming days, I think unless we put in place changes which directly hit upon aspects of public health and solid waste management, we would not be going much ahead. So Madiwala market was more of an experiment. I think even in terms of market, it's not as big as probably a KR market or a Russell market. But still, we could see something that worked on the ground with minimal intervention and a bit of training and good collaboration between BBMP and the private partners. So I think even we could take a few more challenging markets in the coming days. We would see success. I'm fairly positive about that.
Great. Thank you, sir. So one of the things, obviously, we didn't talk about is our own SVP warrior on waste, who is Padma Shri, without whom none of this would have happened, at least from our end. So I'm going to give the mic over to her for her to do the rest of the meeting. We've heard so many great things about you from her, so we're very lucky to have you in BBIP, and thank you for all that you do from all of us. So, so I'm going to give this over to Padma Shri for her to take this forward. Padma Shri.
Yeah. Hi. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Rohini. I'm your neighbor in Koramangala. So Bajar, Samaj and Bajar, that exactly fits our Madiwala market. We want to get the Samaj into the Bajar with the help of the Sarkar, which I think we have managed to do. So what we have, the reason behind me getting into this was, as Randeep sir said, I live very close to Madiwala market, and to see it go to this shape where cows are grazing on the street, eating from plastics and other things was extremely disappointing. And with my work in solid waste management, I thought if I could bring in that experience into working with the markets. And when I proposed to SVP about this, they were more than happy to support this project. And when Vedan, I approached Vedan and we all decided to work together on this project, it was magical, simply because we were able to work on the ground, and there was a complete coordination between BBMP. All the stakeholders worked very well, and I mean, I myself was very surprised to see the results so fast. So it's one thing is about the funding, but it's also about coordination between all agencies. And I think to explain this further, I'll request Suhasini from Vedan to do her presentation. Okay. Poster is disabled. Yes, okay. Sanjana, can you enable the screen sharing? Because Suhasini is with me.
You should be able to do it now.
Now try. Okay. You may have to remove your mask to talk.
Good morning, everyone. This is Suhasini from Vedan NGO. We are here to understand the market waste management system, particularly what we did at the Madiwala market. So the agenda of this presentation would be an introduction about our NGO, then the dynamics that is involved in the market, what are the problems the market faced with respect to waste, what is GISTA model and how it can help in giving solution to the market waste, and the roles of different stakeholders. So this is the agenda for today's presentation. So we started an NGO in the year 2016. We are into health, education and environment. So as a part of environment, we are doing the solid waste management. Our journey with respect to market started in the year 2018. That is at the Kiapuram market. So when you, it is very much important before I get into the presentation to understand the dynamics of market. Most of the major markets, they operate for 16 hours to 18 hours per day. And there are different stakeholders there, that is farmers, wholesalers and retailers. And they all operate at different timeline in a day. So what they used to do is they used to come They used to sell the product and dump it at different places. At multiple places, you could see the black spots. And PK would come on the next day and pick up the waste. If they are not able to do that, then it would get collected at one place and it would stink. And you might have seen the scenario. Also, we observed that the cows and piggery owners were struggling to get the waste in a required manner. They used to scavenge in these spots. Whatever they could collect, they used to collect it. So that is when we inquired, they said, if we can get it in a required manner, we are ready to take a lot of waste from here. And also, the farmers, they come at 3 o'clock in the morning and they will sell their produce till 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. After which they will leave their produce and go back. So this is actually a fresh vegetables. So that is when we understood that why waste these fresh vegetables, we can divert it to orphanages or old age homes. So based on the observations made, we came up with this model. I mean, it's just a simple thing. Garbage can be a star only when it is given in a required format and in a stipulated time. So that is the idea. So it can be given to the cows, pigs, and the orphanages. If we have a place in the market, then leaves and flowers can be composted in-house, as it does not give any smell. So that's the brief idea. Keeping the above things in mind, the objective is to inculcate the segregation habit. Majority of the waste that the market produce can be diverted to cows and pigs. Next priority should be given to the compost plant or the biogas. Then none of the waste should go to the landfill is the idea, market waste. Then the single-use plastic, because there are a lot of vendors, they drink a lot of tea, so most cups are produced there, so we want to avoid. That's just a part of it, but not the major focus. The major focus is visual cleanliness with no black spots, where the vendors can sell it in a clean environment. That is the basic idea. So what we did is in the Kiapura market, the president, he spoke to the wholesale vendors. This is how we started collecting the waste. You can see it's a fresh muskmelon, in fact. Then we started dumping besides the market. The cows started coming and eating it up. So that is when we thought that we'll have a bit permanent kind of infrastructure. So he spoke to all the vendors there and we started collecting the waste, as you can see here. And the vendors themselves pushed the trolleys and they dumped at this site that we had created. The cows, they used to come and eat it. You can see it in the pictures. So this is what we had done at the Kiapura market. You can see here there are 300 kgs. It got consumed by 4 cows in half an hour. So that is a power of cows and pigs. And this is the orphanage kids. They are coming and taking the fresh radish left by the farmers, so that they can save the amount on the expenditure of food. Then this is a farmer. He comes with a load in the morning. Instead of going back empty, he used to take the waste every day till this went on. Now, but unfortunately, the first thing that was done is they destroyed the tubs without giving any notice to us or informing us, because the market was under demolition. So it got shifted right now. So we have plans to do it this in Kiapura market also. So coming to the basic idea is, see, what we thought is, see, farmers, they get their produce in the crates. They give it to the vendors. We can collect the same vegetables in a segregated manner in the crates itself, store it at the collection center and give it to the orphanages, the cows or the gas plants or the farmers, whoever needs the waste. So this is the basic idea, that's all. So how did we do it at the Madiwala market? You will see that. Then important stakeholders in the market is the president. He plays a very major role in having the influence. So having his confidence is very important. Then the corporator, MLA have their own sphere of influence. Then obvious the BBMP officials, supervisors, Paurakarmikas are the implementers there. So they are the ones. Then cows and piggeries. NGO role would be, these are the dots and all are struggling. If we can connect these dots, then everyone, the process will be smooth and it will have an automatic, because one wants the waste to go outside and another wants that waste. So if we can facilitate that, then we can have a beautiful market as we did it in Madiwala market. So advantages, as I said before, cows picks are 24-hour composting machine. We don't need high-end machines and invest a lot of money on that. So this is the best thing to deviate half of the waste of the market to these piggery and cows. Then no black spots would be there, and compost unit of BBMP will get a very good quality waste because we are getting the segregated waste, and it will save a lot of money to the government exchequer on the lorries and the autos that they are using. It saves a lot of money. So this is the basic, and most importantly, PKs can work in a smell-free environment and vendors can sell their produce in the hygienic environment. That is the most important thing. So what we did, Madiwala, as I said before, it is also the same story as Kiapura market. There is absolutely no difference in any of the markets and how they operate. There are also wholesalers, retailers, and farmers, they come. This is how the black spot was before we started. This market produces about, in lean period, 7,000 to 12,000 kgs of wet waste, and in the peak period it is 18,000 to 22,000 kgs per day. It's the capacity. So you can see these black spots. So what, all the waste were just thrown on the road at multiple spots wherever the vendors feel like no. If the PKs, what they used to do, they used to lift it how much ever they can, then they leave it. This is how things were there. And in the market, there are about 401 vendors, plus or minus 20, because markets are very dynamic. Small time vendors, they come and go. And dry waste that this market produces is about 200 to 500 kgs. Max to max, that's all. So dry waste is nothing in front of the wet waste there. So what we did is, the market is about 900 meters. We divided into 4 blocks. And we asked for 2 collection centers, where the green color collection center will collect the waste from block 1 and 2, and yellow color would collect from block 3 and 4. So the idea is, and we have divided the PKs, and these PKs are working in 3 shifts now. Before it was 1 shift, now they are working the same manpower divided into 3 shifts. And because of this, their efficiency has reduced. The individual responsibility of PKs have increased, and they are now forced to show the performance now. So that is the improvement that we have done. We have done time motion study, how much they can carry, not carry, what is the base. So we did this, and that is how we have arrived at these numbers. That is 4 PK, 1 PK, what if 3 PKs are there, what they should do, 4 are there, what they should do. So we have given all the standard operating procedure. So this is the basic thing. So they all move with the trolley. You will understand the procedure now. So this is a waste aggregation center that is built by the BBMP. You can see that it will take from waste from block 1 and block 2. Next, this is the aggregation center. It is actually SVP had given money to build this collection center. But what happened is, during a meeting, the corporator himself announced that we will build this collection center from market association, and SVP India would can use that money for something else in the improvement in the market. So this was the wow factor, because this was the first time the community themselves came forward in terms of giving infrastructure. So that was a very good improvement that we had. So the procedure, to understand the procedure, what we do, what the PKs will do is, they will give the crates. The vendors will ask, I need 10 crates, 5 crates, based on the waste that he generates. We would give the crates, he would put it in the crate, and PKs would carry in the trolleys like this. They would push it, and they would keep it at the collection center. You can see there are 2 spots there. One that is kept for the picks, and the one that is there in the trolley would go to the compactor. So this is the idea. So whoever wants to come, they will pick it up. If nobody is there, we will put it to the compactor. That's the idea. You can see the trolley, it will go to the compactor. So this is the collection center. After, see, the compactor leaves at 1 p.m. to go to the compost plant. After that, from 1 p.m. to the 8:30 a.m., all the waste would be stored in this manner inside the crates. And even in the nights, a few cow people, owners, they come and pick up the waste. In the morning, we vacate it at 6 a.m. So that is what we are doing. This is the procedure followed. The summary is, we would give the crates, they would put their waste there. Our PK would carry those waste in the trolley, and they would keep it at the collection center. And the cows and piggeries will take. If nobody is ready to take, then we will put it in the compactor. That is a basic thing. You can see their waste. It's all fresh cucumbers. These are radish. These are leaves. This is the amount that's generated, and you can see the cow owners, they are picking it up for their animals. You can see here, this is the photos. They are picking up the waste from the collection center. This is the thing. You can see the radish and these things. These are fresh waste, in fact. So we have done some beautification there. There are 2 stages, other 2 stages we are yet to do it because we want to settle it down. So this is what we have done. So this is a partnership. BBMP's role is to implement the model that we had given and to give the required infrastructure and required manpower. I really thank Randeep sir because that was a policy decision that he made to change the biometric system. So because they are working now in 3 shifts. Next is Vedan role is to give all the planning, give the awareness, give the capacity, bring every stakeholder to work towards the goal. And SVP India, they provided the support at a critical time actually. It was getting delayed because we couldn't get few infrastructure. So that is when the SVP India pitched in and they said we are ready to give. That is how this kick-started actually this project. So this is a Paurakamika training that was organized by the SC sir. You can see it. This is a capacity building that we are doing for the PKs. Then this is a corporator. Here is where he announced that we would construct the second collection center. So this is the forum he announced. And you can see from the WAV team, they're distributing the uniforms. The idea is to give them the identity and responsibility so that they work. Then this is a trolley sponsored by the SVP India. It costed 83,000 rupees. 5 trolleys they have sponsored, SVP India. Then this inauguration happened and the MLAs, MPs and even Sir Jogin sir is also there. So he was a part of the thing. Next is the AEE sir. This is the best part. The Santosh sir, he was very much involved. You can see if a teamwork is there, what we can achieve. He did the capacity building for the supervisors. He was following up with all of them PKs and supervisors. So he was able to bring all these people to ground and work. And the health camp was organized by Padma Shri ma'am. So for the vendors, so that health is also an important factor there. So about 250 people attended. Paper cups. This was a big nuisance in that area because all they used to throw. You can imagine this market produces about 6,000 cups per day minimum. This is minimum I'm talking. And you can see in the first picture, it's a black spot has got many paper cups there. So all these would go to the mix compactor. So by banning this, we were able to avoid all this. So that is the basic idea, but still enforcement is required, which will happen. But then lockdown has happened, so it has cooled down. You can see 56 vendors have now started getting their own steel cups here. They can see this. You can see the before after effects of the thing. How the place where you can see the before after pictures. You can see the difference here. This is how it was.
கண்ணாடி போட்டுக்கறானா சார் கண்ணாடி போட்டுக்கறானா
Same place.
ஆனா அதெல்லாம் போட்டுன்னு வர்க் பண்ண சொல்லுங்க ஏனா கண்ணாடி இருக்கு
Ma'am Jayashree she did it. So this is how the difference is. You can see this. This is how it was. This is how it is now. Right now, these are the before after pictures. This is the clean market that you can see. This is what it is. Toilet is important. Still, it is in the repair condition. It needs to get opened up. So we did that some toilet painting concept. So if we come to the dryways, this is the dryways that the market produce. That's all. Only bags. Even we want to avoid this by having some system with the onion people, which we are working out. So the produce is as I said, 100 to 500 kgs. You saw the black spots, right? From there to the landfill, about 3,000 kgs to 5,000 kgs per day were used to go to the mix compactor. Now it has been stopped. It's hardly from the market waste I'm talking. It's just about 300 kgs. It goes to the mix compactor as of now. So this is the thing. Resources that we created is very simple things we need. Crates, trolley, bin, shed. That's all. It's a very simple thing. And these are where the existing ones, which the BBMP already had. As I said, the comparison is that before they used to work in 1 shift. Now they are working in 3 shifts. Before they have 54 PKs. Now we are doing it in same 25 PKs. The number of autos were 7. Now we need just 1 auto. And before Wednesdays and Saturdays, it was half days. Now it is a weekly off. So we are implementing the roster system for the holiday. So the impact is 95% segregation is happening. And from block 3, 4, nobody is throwing the waste outside. They keep it till the PKs come for the next day. Then vendors are streamlined into the system. Before they didn't had any voice where to raise if the waste is not picked up. Now they have a voice and they raise a complaint. From the collection center 1, we are able to send now 1000 to 1300 kgs per day. Now piggery associations have come forward that saying that we are ready to take the waste. So this will definitely increase. Half of it can be diverted to these cows and pigs, and they're asking for the letter, so we are working on that. Then 7 major black spots have been fixed now, as I showed before. Now paper cups, as I said, 6000 paper cups per day are saved, but this enforcement still needs to be a bit stronger. So the challenges that we are facing is supervisors, sometimes they show the consistency is bit is a problem. Even though we have given in split ups in the times, all standard operating procedure is given, still there is a problem with that. Implementation of the ban on paper cups is bit a problem there. Then that is with the supervisors. Black spot, as I said, there is a Siddhartha colony. People come and throw in this, so that is actually visually affecting us, showing that one black spot I'm talking about. And there the vendors come at 3 a.m. and they throw it. So we want to fix it by using marshals, because 3 a.m. is bit an odd time and nobody will be there to observe. So we are hopeful that it will get fixed. Then the roads for block 2, 3 and 4, the roads are made of mud. So now they have put some jelly stones and they have plans to cement it. If that is done, then the pushing of the trolleys would be easy task. Then future plans is to train the PKs and the supervisors, that is team building, time management. We want SVP India's support to this activity, where they can train the supervisors about the importance of these. And then infrastructure development, that is we have a bit of amount saved given by the SVP India. We want to use it for exit entry point smoothening out, so that they don't put a lot of pressure on the trolleys while they are moving. Then buying of few crates, a few more crates. Then procurement of trolleys. The sweeping waste is there, right? So we want that to be collected in the trolleys and they can put it, so that it is easy for the PKs to do it. So that is a future plan we have. Then half of the waste will go after we have a meeting with the piggery association. So SVP India, we are thankful to the organization, especially Padma Shri ma'am, who pitched at a very critical time. And she said that, okay, we will fund for the trolleys and the shed that you need. So that is how it got kick-started. We are very thankful to SVP India for that. So this is the amount that was given by the SVP India, 1,93,100 rupees, out of which we have spent 92,000 rupees. We are left with 1 lakh rupees, and we want to use it for the following purpose, like crates, as I said before, first aid box, the trolley, cement work at the exit entry points. So we want to spend that money here, so that it's easy. Even the process can happen very smoothly. So summary is simple. It produces about 710 to 12 ton during peak period, that is rainy season and festival time. It is about 18,000 kgs to 22,000 kgs. Half of the waste can be diverted. Now, right now, from one collection, it is now 1,000 to 1,000 kgs per day. It is going on regular basis. 7 major black spots have been fixed. We are able to achieve the visual cleanliness that is required. Then mixed waste, as I said, 6,000 cups have been saved, but this enforcement is still required. So thank you. But this model, the basic idea is just this: how the fruits and vegetables come. If we can collect it in the same way, then there are many people who want to take it. It's just that they are not getting the waste in the way they want it. If we are able to give that, then market is actually not a problem at all. And also the piggeries and cows, they are also waiting, and vendors are fed up selling their produce in that pathetic environment. So even they support this because they want to do it, their business in a very good environment. So this is a replicable. Every market in Bangalore can have this model, at least a small scale. I don't want to comment on the Kia market, but other markets, this model can really work well, as there are many piggeries and cows in and out. So thank you.
Thank you, Suhasini. You've been, this is a fantastic project, and thanks for taking the Padma Shri, if you don't mind, there are a lot of questions pouring in.
Okay.
And seeing Sri Randeep is there, I'd like to ask
Sure.
a few questions because they're coming in for him. One is from Shanta, which says that there are many projects. Sorry, I'm just going to read out. There are many NGOs in Bangalore for solid waste management. And if we are trying, I mean, we meaning Padma Shri and a very dedicated team are trying to get all these NGOs in one, work with all of these NGOs and scale up our SVP effort across, not just markets, but hopefully in lakes and etc. Is there a way BBNP can help facilitate and take ownership for scale up if we prove that the POC works? Then say, here's the SOP, here's how we have proven it works. Can you please help and take this up elsewhere? So that's a question for you, sir. I think you're unmute. I'm just going to unmute you. Sorry.
Can I answer that?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So if you remember a few weeks or probably a few months back, we had announced the scheme Adopt a Street. Now,
Yes.
street being a rather generic term, it need not specifically have been a street. Street could always be replaced by a market, lake, so on and so forth. So we've got a good number of responses. In fact, we had 40 NGOs, companies, RWS stepping forward and saying that, look, this locality is ours. As long as anything to do with SWM and public health happens, we are there to support. So we were just about to sign the MOU with them when the virus hit and we had the lockdown. So very soon we would have that tie-up. And Adopt a Street model is somewhere where there is a platform for anybody and everybody, even the smallest of organizations, to come up and say that, look, I'm here to contribute. It could start with something as simple as cleaning up your neighborhood every week with a group of about 10 to 15 volunteers and saying that here's the waste, we can take it away. It could be somebody who say that we'll sit and segregate our waste to ensure that no disposable masks get into the regular stream of waste. So something as small as that to something as big as what Vedan and SVP did. Anything is possible. And I think we are open to this. I am the nodal officer for SWM. Thereby, if you want to enter into lakes or any other sector, I could guide you to the right person who take it ahead. But definitely, we are open, more than open. We welcome with open arms anybody who's coming to help us with this, because we know the challenge is huge. And then just BBMP with its strained resources would not be able to deliver.
So thank you. So go ahead,
The thing I feel is that all the NGOs that are working in waste management are working in silos.
Yes.
Maybe we need to come together, and we at SVP, Randeep sir, we are trying to create a platform where we will, of course, we're trying to bring a lot of stakeholders together and try to roll out a nice replicable model, which we will come to you as soon as we are ready to take it to the next step. So I think the important thing is we should work together and not in silos.
Yes, very much true. So I have one last question for you. I know you're pressed for time. Sanjana keeps pinging me on that. And that is from Ram Swami saying, why, is there a way to solve the issue of the Bellandur Lake? Because this is something that's going on. It seems like from whatever we are sitting on the outside is that we have the knowledge, we have the skills, and we have possibly the funds as well. So what's happening? Can you give us a little bit of background? You obviously know much more than all of us.
I think a lot more brighter minds are at it. They could be too small a person to comment on it. As you're aware, the High Court is monitoring this. We have a former local judge there sitting and monitoring it almost with a magnifying lens. And a lot of money has also gone in. I mean, let me say, even to build those watchtowers, to have those CCTV cameras for 24/7, to have surveillance on the ground, patrolling by the marshals.
Oops. Sorry, it's been
the extent of the lake and all the other stakeholders who kind of have to get into this. And it's quite a challenge. But a lot of steps have been taken. There have been coordination committee meetings at the level of ACS, Chief Secretary also. It's also a regular point which keeps coming up in the coordination committee meetings of the CS. Efforts are being made. But this sheer scale of it, I mean, from what I can see as a lakeside viewer, even if one needs to desilt the whole lake, dewater the whole lake, where does one leave it? Where does one deposit that silt, the transportation cost. So these are huge challenges. I think a graded approach, maybe a phased approach over a period of time, we can bring in some change. But an immediate solution, I think, is quite a challenge.
Okay, thank you, sir. So what we will do, as Padmashri has mentioned, is as she's been working with a lot of these NGOs, but trying to break down the silos and creating something that can work. And if that works, we would love to have an additional dialogue with you on how to scale that up after that.
Sure, I'd be. I have certain priority areas in SWM which I would like to pose before the larger community, and if that could be taken up on priority, and then as Padmashri was mentioning, a kind of an SOP or
Yes.
a system could be put in place to get them all together and how they seamlessly work with us, because this needs to go beyond individuals.
Yes.
We need to institutionalize this so that in the future also people find it easier engaging with BBM. Because there's a lot of money out there, a lot of effort, goodwill out there, but
Yes.
people just don't know how to reach out and make a difference. So we need to facilitate that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I'll be exiting as I need to go to office. Thank you for this session,
No problem.
and it was totally enriching. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you,
so
sir.
much, sir. Padmashri, there's a question for you and Swasini. Is there any way to reduce the fresh vegetable waste that is brought to the market?
Sir, actually, this is one thing I actually wanted to work out, because there are many I asked the leaf vendors there. They come from the same village and they produce the same thing. So they come to this market and they produces more. If you guys are really serious about solving this problem, then all the markets, somehow the farmers need to get that message. For example, in one market, this much of kgs of tomatoes are already there. If that information the farmer can get, he will not to come to Madivada market. He will go to some other market, say Saraki market, where the tomato is not so much, so that he can get a good price. If we really want to save, that is actually a different topic in itself. For the infrastructure you have, the money you have, I think you can take that up. We just need to work on that. Actually, we are serious on working on it, because we have seen many waste and we know the reason also, but we need the manpower and funds to execute it. So that is one thing I would like to put in. And also there are selfish people out there. We need to penetrate them then to get the things work with respect to that.
Okay, thank you.
Many middlemen.
Padmashri, any other thoughts, any closing comments on you before we stop? I mean, by the way, everybody knows this, but Padmashri has been the driving force for the entire thing. So tell us a bit closing comments, and then I'll do a quick chapter update and close it there.
Closing comments is all I can say is that it was very, very nice to see the change. Normally, when we start working on something and by the time you see the change, it's a very long time. But I think the most satisfying thing is it has been a quick and very impactful project for me. And since I live very, very close, within walking distance of Madiwala, I was able to put in the effort along with Vedan. And somehow what struck me was the very first day when we had the meeting with the vendors. And when I said, at that time I proposed that SVP will do the shed, and I thought I might even get funding for a toilet there for the vendors. And the market president just stood up and said, "We will do it, ma'am. For our vendors, we will do it." And that was a very, very watershed moment for me, where they also started feeling that, yeah, this market also belongs to us. So I think that way it has brought out a great coordination between all the stakeholders. I enjoyed that.
Thank you, Padmashri. Well, just a brief note on the chapter and what's been going on. So essentially, we've had lots of great success stories, I think, crafting futures. So I'll give you a 2-minute breakdown on what our NGOs are up to, and then go to a lot of what strategies we can apply from whatever we've learned so far. So we've got with the help of Sanjana and a lot of us, a lot of the teams, we've the lead partners, we've got successes like Crafting Futures, which has created 1 lakh masks and distributed them. We've got a lot of these PPEs that you've already known. We've got Mitti, which got somewhere else. We've got Swasti and Vritti, which were taken over, by the way, by SVP Hyderabad for funding. So there's a lot that has happened. And we remain absolutely convinced that the networking effect is our is where we play a massive role. So with that, what do we do? And for me, the big thing is that wherever these projects have worked, like you see the Vedan project, like the money that we have given is trivial, but the impact is massive. So wherever these projects have worked, it has been for 2 or 3 things. The topmost being that we have a fantastic SVP partner on this end and a fantastic NGO on a leader on this end. These are the critical things that can make things work. And there are several other things. So what we are going to do, in fact, this session was supposed to be about that, is how to create this strategy for resilience. And how to start having a very specific to-do list for resilience. And we're going to do that in the next session, because this session we had lots of things that were going on. The CMC has been actively working on this. We've had several discussions on this, and we look forward to presenting that in the next partner meet. I would also give a plug. There is a thought leadership session on the 13th. Please make sure that you attend. This is an SVP India thought leadership. These sessions have been extremely well received, and Sanjana will share with you the invite. And please make sure you do attend. This is the time for all of us to be together. This loss of control that we will feel if we are alone, because then you don't know who to go out to, how to help. You've got all this money in the bank, you don't know actually who to go out to. And this is where for me, SVP is the place where we connect, because this is an always on network, which I call it, where we can go in and figure out how to connect. We will also do, there has been a request, there have been several chats that will come to me about actual COVID-19. And this is something where I am sort of a semi-expert, at least, if not a full expert. So we will also do some sort of a 20-25 minute session on that next time as well when we speak. But the point is, we've got to go do this together. I loved Rohini's discussion on responsibility, responsiveness and resilience. We've done the first one fairly well. I think we are relatively okay. We do respond well, at least based on what we've seen in the last 3 months when we have to. And the resilience is something that we truly need to work on. So let's take the next step in the next all partner meeting for resilience and make that as a cornerstone for us, for SVP. Resilience across everything from whatever SWM, how do we create resilience in the sector, to livelihoods, to farmers, everywhere. What are the key SOPs that we need to adopt as SVP for resilience to be brought in? So I'm going to end with that. If anybody else has any questions, I've got 120 seconds left, which is a fantastic time management, if I may say so for myself. And Sanjana, who's been policing me with WhatsApp, of course. Anything else that anybody else wants to add as Padma Shri, Sanjana, anybody else? Maybe.
In this post-COVID, in the post-COVID time, I think working on a market is really very ideal, because we need to we need to have markets.
Yes.
We cannot not have markets.
Yes.
But at the same time, we need to have them well organized and well set, so that environment continues.
Yes, thank you.
So just a quick housekeeping.
Just one
PPT at the end of this and the recording.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you, Sanjana. Sorry. I think you were saying something and Revati was saying something. Why don't you go first and then Revati?
We'll send out the PPT and recording at the end of it.
Revati, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Padma Shri, kudos to you. I think this is phenomenal work by Vedan. I think this is something that we really need to scale up. And I've got a million ideas that I see how this can be scaled up across the city. I think we have the City Connect. We can try and see. There are a number of leaders who will be very passionate about some of these things. I think we have to replicate the similar environment, which means we need to have somebody on the ground, very close by, SVP partner engaged. We need, of course, Vedan, I hope, can scale up and work in some other area as well. We need to create these SOPs. I can promise also leaders on the ground. We have to choose markets carefully. It may not be very, very big markets, but of size and scale, which is similar to Madiwala market. If we pick up those and replicate some of this, I think what SVP is doing across the city will be really a model to emulate across the country. I think,
Absolutely.
and I can really offer some of our feet on the ground to work on that.
Thanks, Rafi. So I think this, wherever we do, the point is, it's not about the money. It's not about this difficult. Everybody thinks this is something extremely difficult. No, it is about dedication, sincerity, and on the ground work, which has been demonstrated.
And the attention to detail. I was so impressed by the attention to detail which was provided by Vedan. I think this is an organization which is phenomenal, and if they have the capacity to scale to different parts of the city, we can do 2 or 3 and see how it works. It's not easy when you do it in one, and then taking it to the second and third becomes more and more complex. Because then it requires more management skill and more people, because it's very, very detail oriented, whatever they have done.
Yes, agree. Okay. So with that, guys, okay, Sashi, I'll respond to your question separately. And I'll talk to you separately on this because I have some questions coming in. But thank you, everybody. And this was a very, very good session. Thank you for, the technology more or less held up. And this is something that we will certainly replicate. In some ways, I actually found this much more constructive because, everybody is absolutely on the computer. If you're in a face-to-face, I see a lot of people on their phones, which maybe they still are, but at least I can see them, so that helps. So thanks everybody for this session. We will do the next session, as I said, which is a promise on resilience for our communities, and that is the thing that we'll concentrate on. And thanks everybody, and we'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Sanjana.